Imagine sun's disappearance in 7 days. Imagine, if you will, a world where the most fundamental constant of human existence, the sun, simply ceases to be. Not a solar eclipse, not a temporary dimming, but an absolute, instantaneous disappearance. This is not a scenario from science fiction, it is a thought experiment that reveals just how fragile our existence truly is. The sun is not merely a source of light and warmth, it is the gravitational anchor of our solar system, the engine of our climate, and the foundation of virtually every ecosystem on Earth. Without it, our planet would undergo a transformation so rapid and so complete that it would make every extinction event in Earth's history seem like a minor inconvenience. This narrative will take you through each of the 7 days following the sun's disappearance, describing in detail what would happen to the planet, its atmosphere, its oceans, its life, and its human inhabitants. We will explore the science behind each phenomenon and paint a picture of what the world would look like, sound like, and feel like as it descends into an eternal, frozen night. Day 1. The Great Unraveling. The first 8 minutes and 20 seconds, a ghost in the sky. The sun disappears at exactly 12 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. But no one knows it yet. Not a single person on Earth notices anything unusual. The sky remains blue, the air remains warm, and life continues as it has for billions of years. This is because light and gravity both travel at the same speed, the speed of light, and it takes approximately 8 minutes and 20 seconds for either to reach Earth from the sun. For those first 8 minutes and 20 seconds, the sun's light continues to stream toward us, and its gravitational pull continues to hold us in orbit, as if the star was still there. Imagine a family having a picnic in a park in Paris. Children are playing, parents are laughing, and the sun is shining down on them. They have no idea that the source of that warmth and light has already ceased to exist. It is a ghostly reprieve, a final gift from a star that is already gone. Minute 8. The sky goes out. At exactly 8:20 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, the last photons of sunlight reach Earth. Then, nothing. The sun vanishes from the sky as if someone flipped a switch. It does not fade or dim, it is simply gone. The blue sky turns to an inky, star-filled blackness in an instant. The moon, which was visible in the sky, disappears completely because it only shines by reflected sunlight. Imagine looking up at the sky and seeing a black void where the sun should be. The transition is so sudden that it is disorienting. People on the daylight side of Earth are plunged into an absolute, profound darkness deeper than any night they have ever experienced. There are no city lights to soften it, at least not at first. The stars, which were always there but invisible during the day, now blaze with an unnatural brightness. They are beautiful, but they are also a cruel reminder that the sun is gone. Panic erupts instantly. In cities around the world, people scream. Cars crash as drivers are suddenly blinded. Airplanes, their pilots disoriented by the sudden loss of visual references, struggle to maintain control. In the first few minutes, chaos reigns. The world has gone blind. The first hour, the cold creeps in. The temperature begins to drop immediately. It is not a gentle chill, it is a rapid, terrifying plunge. The Earth's surface, which was warmed by the sun, now begins to radiate its stored heat into space. Without the sun to replenish that heat, the temperature drops at an alarming rate. Within the first hour, the temperature in a city like Cairo, which was 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit, drops by several degrees. People shiver in their summer clothes. The wind, no longer warmed by the sun, feels like a knife. In colder regions, like Moscow or Winnipeg, the temperature drops below freezing within the first hour. Pipes begin to freeze. Cars won't start. The first deaths from hypothermia occur: the homeless, the elderly, the unprepared. The stars, now visible everywhere, seem to mock the darkness below. There is no moon. There is no sun. There is only the cold, hard light of distant suns. The first night, which never ends. As hours pass, the world realizes this is not a solar eclipse. The sun is not coming back. Panic sets in on a global scale. People rush to stores, fighting over flashlights, batteries, blankets, and food. Supermarkets are looted within hours. Gas stations run dry as people try to fill the cars and generators. Power grids, overwhelmed by the sudden demand for artificial light and heat, begin to fail. Cities go dark, one by one. The lights of civilization, which once made Earth glow at night, flicker and die. By midnight, though there is no way to tell time anymore, the temperature has dropped below freezing in most of the world. The silence is deafening. Without the sun, the wind patterns that once carried sound have changed. The birds are silent, confused by the eternal darkness. The insects are gone. The world is muffled, as if wrapped in a thick blanket of ice. The only sounds are the groaning of frozen structures and the desperate cries of the dying. The first 24 hours, a world in shock. By the end of the first day, the average global temperature has dropped by approximately 20 degrees Celsius, 36 degrees Fahrenheit. The world is in a state of shock. Governments are paralyzed. Emergency services are overwhelmed. The death toll is already in the millions. The oceans, which have immense thermal inertia, are still relatively warm, but their surface is cooling rapidly. The first signs of ice appear in shallow coastal waters. The great ocean currents, driven by temperature differences created by the sun, begin to slow. The atmosphere is also changing. Without the sun's heat, the weather systems that once circled the globe have collapsed. The jet stream, which carried storms across continents, is gone. The world is becoming a single, uniform, frozen mass. Day 2. The deep freeze begins. A sunless dawn. There is no sunrise on the second day. The sky remains a deep, starry black. People huddle in their homes, burning furniture for warmth. The lucky ones have generators or fireplaces. The unlucky ones freeze. The temperature continues to plummet. In the Sahara Desert, the sand is now covered in frost. In the Amazon, the leaves of the jungle are black and brittle. The humidity in the air has turned to ice crystals, which fall like a strange, silent snow. Imagine standing in the middle of the Sahara, a place that once reached 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, during the day. Now, it is -10 degrees Celsius, 14 degrees Fahrenheit, and dropping. The sand, which was once scorching, is now frozen solid. The wind howls across the dunes, carrying ice crystals that sting the skin. The oceans begin to die. The oceans, which cover 71% of the Earth's surface, are the planet's great heat reservoir. They have absorbed the sun's energy for billions of years, and they release it slowly. But even the oceans cannot withstand a week without the sun. On the second day, the surface temperature of the oceans begins to drop significantly. In tropical waters, which were once 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature falls to 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. In temperate waters, it falls below 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Marine life near the surface begins to die. Fish, unable to regulate their body temperature, float to the surface, frozen. Whales, confused and cold, beach themselves in a desperate attempt to find warmth. Imagine standing on a beach and watching the waves grow sluggish, their edges turning to slush. The sound of the ocean changes, it becomes quieter, heavier, as the water thickens. The smell of the sea, once fresh and salty, is now tinged with the odor of death. The collapse of agriculture. On the second day, the world's food supply begins to collapse. Without sunlight, photosynthesis has stopped. Plants, which were the foundation of the food chain, can no longer produce energy. Crops in fields begin to wither and die. Greenhouses, which rely on sunlight, are useless. In the breadbaskets of the world, the American Midwest, the Ukrainian steppes, the Indian Punjab, the wheat and corn that were growing are now frozen and dead. The global food supply, which was already precarious, is now gone. Billions of people face starvation. Imagine a farmer in Iowa, standing in his field. The corn, which was waist-high and green just yesterday, is now brown and brittle, covered in frost. He knows that his livelihood, his family's food, and his contribution to the world are all gone. He has no idea how he will survive. The psychological toll. The psychological impact of the sun's disappearance is immense. Humans have evolved under the sun. Our circadian rhythms, our sleep-wake cycles, our moods, all are tied to the sun's light. Without it, people become disoriented, depressed, and anxious. On the second day, the first cases of severe depression and psychosis are reported. People who were already vulnerable to mental illness are hit hardest. The eternal darkness is a constant reminder that the world has ended. Suicide rates skyrocket. Imagine a child, crying in the dark, asking their parents why the sun is gone. The parents have no answer. They can only hold their child and try to keep them warm, knowing that they are running out of time. Day 3. The collapse of life. The green world turns brown. By the third day, all plant life on Earth is in a state of suspended death. Without sunlight, photosynthesis has stopped completely. The leaves, which were once green, have turned brown and fallen. The world, which was once a tapestry of green and blue, is now a monochrome landscape of gray, brown, and white. Imagine walking through a forest where every tree is bare, every bush is dead, and the ground is covered in a layer of frozen, rotting leaves. The smell of decay is everywhere. The forest, which was once full of life and sound, is now silent and dead. The great forests of the world, the Amazon, the Congo, the Siberian tiger, are dying. The trees, which were the lungs of the planet, are no longer producing oxygen. The atmosphere, which was once 21% oxygen, is beginning to change. It will take years for the oxygen levels to drop significantly, but the process has begun. The animals starve. Herbivores, like deer, rabbits, and cattle, have nothing to eat. They wander aimlessly, growing weaker by the hour. Carnivores, like wolves and lions, hunt the dying herbivores, but there is not enough prey to sustain them. Soon, they too begin to starve. In a zoo, the animals huddle together for warmth. The lions, once majestic, are now shivering, emaciated shadows. The polar bears, ironically, are the only ones that seem comfortable, but even they cannot find food in the frozen, dark world. Imagine a pack of wolves in Yellowstone National Park. They are starving. They have eaten all the deer and elk that were available, and now they are turning on each other. The alpha male, once the leader of the pack, is now the weakest. He is killed and eaten by his own pack. The circle of life has become a circle of death. Humanity's last stand. In cities, the situation is desperate. Hospitals are overwhelmed with cases of hypothermia and frostbite. The dead are piling up in the streets, frozen solid. Looting and violence are rampant. The few remaining power plants, mostly nuclear and geothermal, struggle to keep a fraction of the grid running. People are burning everything for warmth: books, furniture, even the wood from their own homes. The air is thick with smoke from countless fires, but it does little to fight the cold. Governments have collapsed. There is no law, no order, no hope. The world has descended into a state of anarchy. The strong survive by taking from the weak. The weak die. Imagine a city like New York. The streets are dark and silent, except for the occasional sound of gunfire or screaming. The buildings are dark, their windows shattered by the cold. The bodies of the dead lie frozen in the streets. The city that never slept is now a tomb. Day 4. The oceans begin to freeze. The Great Freeze. The surface of the oceans, which has been cooling for days, now begins to freeze in earnest. It does not happen all at once. First, a thin, glassy layer of ice forms on the surface, like a skin. Then, it thickens. Imagine standing on a coastline and watching the waves slow, then stop, then turn to solid ice. The sound of the ice cracking and groaning is like the earth itself is crying out in pain. The ice spreads rapidly, covering the surface of the ocean in a matter of hours. By the fourth day, the Arctic Ocean, which was already partially frozen, is completely covered in ice. The North Atlantic, the North Pacific, and the Southern Ocean are all freezing. The great ice sheets of Greenland and Antarctica, which were already massive, are growing as the ocean water freezes onto them. The end of the Gulf Stream. The ocean currents, which once distributed heat around the globe, have stopped. The Gulf Stream, which kept Europe warm, is now a frozen river. Europe, already freezing, becomes a frozen wasteland. London, Paris, Berlin, all are buried under snow and ice. Imagine the city of London, once a bustling metropolis, now a frozen ghost town. The Thames is frozen solid. Big Ben is encased in ice. The streets are empty, except for the bodies of the dead. The city that was once the heart of an empire is now a monument to the end of the world. The sky changes. The atmosphere, now much colder and thinner, begins to behave strangely. The stars, which were bright, now seem to shimmer and dance. The aurora borealis, usually only seen at the poles, is now visible everywhere, a ghostly, green curtain in the sky. It is beautiful, but it is a sign of the atmosphere's collapse. The air is so cold that it hurts to breathe. Any exposed skin freezes in seconds. The world is becoming a frozen, airless wasteland. Day 5. The deep freeze. The temperature plummets. The average global temperature is now below -18 degrees Celsius, 0 degrees Fahrenheit. In some places, it is much colder. The air is so cold that it hurts to breathe. Any exposed skin freezes in seconds. The great cities of the world are now ice-covered tombs. The Eiffel Tower is encased in a thick layer of frost. The pyramids of Giza are covered in snow. The skyscrapers of New York are dark, frozen monoliths, their windows shattered by the cold. Imagine standing at the top of the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. The view, which once showed a vibrant, bustling city, now shows a frozen wasteland. The desert, which was once scorching, is now covered in snow. The city is silent, dead, and frozen. The last humans. The only humans left are those in deep, well-insulated bunkers, or near geothermal vents. They huddle together, listening to the groaning of the ice above them. They know that their supplies will not last forever. They know that they are the last of their kind. These survivors are the lucky ones. They have food, water, and heat. But they are also the unlucky ones. They have to live with the knowledge that everyone they knew and loved is dead. They have to live with the knowledge that they are the last of humanity. Imagine a group of scientists in a research station in Antarctica. They are well supplied and well insulated. They have geothermal heat and a nuclear reactor. They can survive for years. But they are alone. The rest of the world is dead. They are the last humans on Earth. The Earth drifts. Earth is now millions of miles from its original orbit, hurtling through the cold, dark void of space at 30 kilometers per second, 18 miles per second. The solar system is gone. The sun is gone. Earth is alone. If you could see Earth from space, you would see a white, frozen ball, with no blue oceans and no green continents. It is a ghost planet, drifting silently through the blackness. Day 6. Drifting into the void. Earth is a rogue planet. Earth is now a rogue planet, a world without a star. It is hurtling through interstellar space at a speed of 30 kilometers per second. The sun, which was once the center of our universe, is now a distant memory. The temperature continues to drop. The average surface temperature is now approaching -73 degrees Celsius, -100 degrees Fahrenheit. The atmosphere is so thin and cold that it is almost a vacuum. The sky is a deep, starry black, with no clouds, no wind, no sound. The geothermal refuges. The only remaining life on Earth is in the deep ocean, near hydrothermal vents, and in the Earth's crust, where geothermal heat provides warmth. These are the only places where liquid water still exists. Imagine a hydrothermal vent on the ocean floor. The water around it is hot, rich in minerals, and full of life. Strange, alien-like creatures, tube worms, giant clams, extremophile bacteria, continue their ancient, slow lives, oblivious to the catastrophe above. They are the last living things on Earth. The view from space. If you could see Earth from space, you would see a white, frozen ball, with no blue oceans and no green continents. It is a ghost planet, drifting silently through the blackness. The moon, which was once a constant companion, is now gone. It has drifted away, following its own straight line path through space. Earth is alone. Day 7. The final day. The coldest day. The average surface temperature is now approaching -100 degrees Celsius, -148 degrees Fahrenheit. The atmosphere is so thin and cold that it is almost a vacuum. The sky is a deep, starry black, with no clouds, no wind, no sound. The oceans are frozen solid to a depth of hundreds of meters. The ice is so thick and so cold that it is as hard as rock. The pressure of the ice has crushed any remaining ships and structures on the seafloor. The end. There is no movement. There is no sound. There is only the cold, the dark, and the silence. Earth is a frozen, lifeless rock, drifting through the infinite void. The story of humanity, of life, of everything, has come to an end. But wait. The sun is about to return. Day 7. The final day. The coldest day. By the 7th day, Earth has become something unrecognizable. The average surface temperature is now approaching -100 degrees Celsius, -148 degrees Fahrenheit. To put that into perspective, the coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth was -89.2 degrees Celsius, -128.6 degrees Fahrenheit, in Antarctica. The entire planet is now colder than that record by a significant margin. Every continent, every ocean, every city is now a frozen wasteland. The atmosphere, a ghost of its former self. The atmosphere, which was once a thick, life-giving blanket of nitrogen, oxygen, and trace gases, is now a thin, cold shell. Without the sun's heat to drive convection and weather patterns, the atmosphere has become almost completely still. There is no wind. There are no clouds. There is no sound. Imagine standing on the surface of the Earth and looking up. The sky is a deep, starry black, but it is not the familiar black of a moonless night. It is a profound, absolute blackness, punctuated by stars that seem unnaturally bright and sharp. They do not twinkle, because there is no turbulent atmosphere to distort their light. They are like pinpricks of frozen light in a velvet void. The air is so thin and cold that it feels like a vacuum. If you were to take a breath, it would feel like inhaling liquid nitrogen. Your lungs would burn, then freeze. Any exposed skin would freeze in seconds. The moisture in your eyes would crystallize, blinding you. The air itself is a weapon. The oceans, frozen solid. The oceans, which once covered 71% of the Earth's surface and held the planet's heat, are now frozen solid to a depth of hundreds of meters. The ice is not the familiar, brittle ice of a winter pond. It is a dense, crystalline mass, as hard as granite. The pressure of the ice has crushed any remaining ships, structures, or debris on the seafloor. Imagine standing on the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. It is no longer a liquid expanse. It is a solid, white plain that stretches to the horizon. The ice is so thick that it does not crack or groan underfoot. It is silent, motionless, and eternal. The waves, which once crashed against shores, are now frozen in mid-motion, like a photograph of a storm. The great ocean currents, the Gulf Stream, the Kuroshio, the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, have all stopped. The ocean is a single, frozen mass, with no movement, no life, no sound. The land, a frozen tomb. The continents are buried under ice and snow. The great cities of the world, New York, London, Tokyo, Shanghai, are now frozen tombs. The skyscrapers are encased in ice, their windows shattered by the cold. The streets are filled with frozen bodies, frozen cars, frozen debris. Imagine walking through the streets of Paris. The Eiffel Tower is a giant icicle, its lattice structure covered in a thick layer of frost. The Seine is a frozen river, its surface smooth and white. The cafes, the museums, the homes, all are silent, dark, and frozen. The city of light is now a city of ice. In the Sahara Desert, the sand dunes are covered in snow. In the Amazon, the jungle is a frozen, brown wasteland. In the Himalayas, the mountains are even more massive, the glaciers having grown as the moisture in the atmosphere froze and fell as snow. The silence. The most terrifying aspect of Day 7 is the silence. There is no wind. There are no birds. There are no insects. There are no human sounds. The world is completely, utterly silent. Imagine standing in the middle of a frozen city. You cannot hear your own footsteps, because the snow and ice muffle them. You cannot hear your own breath, because it is too cold to breathe deeply. You cannot hear anything, because there is nothing left to make a sound. The silence is so profound that you can hear your own heartbeat. You can hear the blood rushing in your ears. You can hear the creaking of your own joints as you move. The silence is a physical presence, a weight that presses down on you. The end of life. The surface, a sterile wasteland. By day 7, all life on the surface of the earth is dead. Every plant, every animal, every human, all have perished. The only exceptions are the microscopic extremophiles that live deep in the Earth's crust or near geothermal vents. The great forests of the world are dead. The trees, which once stood tall and green, are now frozen, brittle skeletons. Their leaves have fallen and been buried under snow. The animals that once lived in them, the deer, the bears, the birds, are all dead, their bodies frozen solid. The oceans are dead. The fish, the whales, the plankton, all are gone. The only life that remains is in the deep ocean, near hydrothermal vents, where chemosynthetic bacteria and archaea continue to survive, feeding on the chemicals released by the Earth's internal heat. These organisms never needed the sun. They have been living in the dark for billions of years, and they will continue to live for billions more. The deep refuges. The only places where life might still exist are in deep, well-insulated bunkers, or near geothermal vents. These refuges are few and far between. Imagine a research station in Antarctica, built into the rock and powered by a nuclear reactor. The scientists inside have food, water, and heat. They have been listening to the silence for days, knowing that the world outside is dead. They are the last humans alive. But even they are running out of time. Their supplies are limited. Their fuel will eventually run out. They are trapped in a frozen world, with no hope of rescue. The tardigrades. One group of organisms that might survive are the tardigrades, also known as water bears. These microscopic animals are among the most resilient life forms on Earth. They can survive extreme temperatures, radiation, and even the vacuum of space. They can enter a state of cryptobiosis, in which their metabolism slows to a near halt, allowing them to survive for decades without water or food. On day 7, the tardigrades are frozen solid, their bodies encased in ice. But they are not dead. They are waiting. They can survive like this for years, decades, even centuries. When the sun returns, they might thaw and come back to life. They are the ultimate survivors. The Earth drifts. A rogue planet. Earth is now a rogue planet, a world without a star. It is hurtling through interstellar space at a speed of 30 kilometers per second, 18 miles per second. The sun, which was once the center of our universe, is now a distant memory. If you could see Earth from space, you would see a white, frozen ball, with no blue oceans and no green continents. It is a ghost planet, drifting silently through the blackness. The moon, which was once a constant companion, is now gone. It has drifted away, following its own straight-line path through space. Earth is alone. The view from space. Imagine looking at Earth from a spacecraft in orbit. The planet is a perfect sphere of white, with no features, no colors, no signs of life. The atmosphere is a thin, blue-gray halo around the planet, but it is fading. Without the sun's heat, the atmosphere is slowly freezing and falling to the surface as snow. The Earth is becoming a frozen, airless rock, just like the countless other frozen rocks that drift through the universe. The final moments. The last light. As day 7 draws to a close, the Earth is at its coldest. The temperature is approaching -100 degrees Celsius, -148 degrees Fahrenheit. The atmosphere is almost gone. The oceans are frozen solid. The land is buried under ice. There is no movement. There is no sound. There is only the cold, the dark, and the silence. But then, something changes. A flicker in the void. In the distance, a point of light appears. It is small at first, no brighter than a star. But it grows rapidly, becoming brighter and brighter. It is the sun. The sun is returning. But this is not a moment of salvation. It is a moment of apocalyptic destruction. The sun returns, the final catastrophe. The first second, A blinding flash. Imagine being in a pitch black room for a week, and then someone turns on a 1,000,000-watt light bulb directly in front of your eyes. That is what happens. The sun returns in an instant, and its light is blinding, searing, and violent. The light is so intense that it would blind anyone who looked at it. The heat is so intense that it would instantly vaporize anything on the surface of the Earth. The thermal shock. The frozen surface of the Earth, now at -100 degrees Celsius, -148 degrees Fahrenheit, is suddenly blasted by the full, unfiltered heat of the sun. The ice does not melt. It explodes. The frozen oceans, the frozen cities, the frozen bodies, all of it sublimates instantly, turning from solid ice directly into superheated steam. Imagine the entire surface of the Earth erupting in a massive, planet-wide explosion of steam and gas. The sound is deafening, a roar that shakes the very core of the planet. The steam rises, forming a thick, superheated cloud that blocks out the sun again. The boiling and the flood. The steam rises, forming a thick, superheated cloud that blocks out the sun again. Then, the steam condenses and falls back to Earth as boiling rain. The rain is so hot that it melts the remaining ice and rock. The world becomes a global ocean of boiling water. Imagine a world where the oceans are boiling, the land is melting, and the sky is filled with superheated steam. There is no escape. There is no hope. The world is being destroyed. The orbital nightmare. But the worst is yet to come. Earth is no longer in its original orbit. It is millions of miles away, hurtling through space. When the sun's gravity suddenly reapplies, Earth is captured into a new, wildly eccentric orbit. This new orbit is a death sentence. It takes Earth closer to the sun than Mercury, where the surface temperature reaches 400 degrees Celsius, 752 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead. Then, it flings Earth out beyond Pluto, where the temperature drops to -240 degrees Celsius, -400 degrees Fahrenheit. This cycle repeats, over and over, for eternity. Imagine Earth swinging past the sun, its surface melting and boiling. Then, it swings out into the cold, dark void, freezing again. This cycle repeats forever, with no end in sight. The final irony. The return of the sun does not save life. It ensures its complete and utter annihilation. The few survivors in deep geothermal bunkers are killed by the seismic and volcanic upheaval caused by the sudden gravitational and thermal shock. The Earth is a charred, cracked, and sterilized rock, its surface alternately boiled and frozen as it swings through its new, insane orbit. The story of humanity, of life, of everything, has come to an end. The Earth is now a ghost ship, forever sailing through fire and ice, with no hope of ever finding a safe harbor. Blank. Blank. Conclusion. The fragility of existence. Day 7 is the end. It is the coldest, darkest, most silent day in Earth's history. It is the day when all life on the surface of the planet finally succumbs to the cold. It is the day when Earth becomes a frozen, lifeless rock, drifting through the infinite void. But it is also the day when the sun returns, bringing not salvation, but destruction. The return of the sun is the final, most violent act of destruction in a week-long apocalypse. It is the ultimate irony. The source of all life becomes the instrument of its final annihilation. This thought experiment reveals just how fragile our existence truly is. The sun is not just a source of light and warmth, it is the foundation of everything we know and love. Without it, life on Earth would cease to exist within a matter of days. The next time you feel the warmth of the sun on your face, remember this story. Remember that the sun is a gift, and that we are lucky to have it. And remember that, in the grand scheme of the universe, our existence is fleeting and fragile.